And we're recording. Good morning or hello, wherever you are and whatever time of day this is for you. My name is Lisa Illichmann. I am a coach and counselor in both business and personal areas, based here in southern Austria on the southern slopes of the Alps. And sitting next to me is Sophie, who will introduce herself in just a moment. I work in coaching and counseling, as I said, in communication, conflict, collaboration, and in general in finding happiness and in finding satisfaction. And that's kind of the purpose of today and the reason Sophie is sitting next to me. Sophie and I met 4 or 5 years ago here in southern Austria in very strange circumstances, as the best things in life, how the best things in life start, where we had wonderful dialogues with each other about happiness, about satisfaction, about moving beyond suffering, I think, perhaps, but maybe Sophie can say more about that in just a moment. And these dialogues were enormously beneficial, wonderful, opening, softening, enjoyable for me. And we've gotten back together now after all this time to continue this tradition online, because we're in lockdown. Both of us are stuck kind of where we're at in the middle of this coronavirus situation, and we're hoping that our words and our dialogues will also reach out to you, and that you'll find it as helpful as we did then, and that we certainly will again now. Sophie, would you like to say a few words about yourself, and perhaps then give us a topic that we can chew on, like dogs chewing on a bone? Can you maybe then introduce the topic?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for such a nice introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Sophie Boyer. I'm calling from France, where I'm based. It's a real pleasure to be with online with Lisa today. As she explained, it's a kind of a reconnection, and we very much look forward, to share the fruits of our exploration together with you. To say a bit about my path, I come from a medical background and work over 10 years as a nurse, more specifically in palliative care, and also with old people and sick people and dying people, and which led me to be very much interested in the tool of meditation to handle my own difficulties and weaknesses and vulnerabilities in life. And this path has led me to become a Buddhist nun in Burma for 2 years and a half something. And after that time, I went back to Europe, where I disrobed, and I've been asked to share a bit about this knowledge and the fruits of my practice with others. And I'm currently trained as a meditation and Dhamma teacher with the Body College in the UK. And I'm also an instructor in MBCAS, which is the mindfulness-based approach for seniors. So I think that's more or less all about the introduction. And the idea with Lisa today is actually we don't know what to do. And we are facing absolute unknown and total uncertainty about how this dialogue is going to develop. And actually, I found very interesting that it could be the starting point for us. It could be the theme of this discussion about uncertainty and not knowing, because I believe for all of us in the world at the moment, we're in contact with that. with this sense of uncertainty or how it's going to be tomorrow. How is it already today for us? So we would like to explore, a bit how we engage and how we respond to this feeling of uncertainty, this radical change we're facing, and also all the range of fear that may arise, within ourselves.
Mhm.
Not only fear, but anxiety, worries, restlessness, all this spectrum. So it's a bit the idea. I don't know, Lisa, if you want to start to say a bit more about that straight away, or shall I go on? Or
I don't know. We're so planless. It's so wonderful. What I like is what you just said, is the spirit that we're using to initiate these dialogues is the spirit in which we're living right now. We don't know. We don't know. We do not know what tomorrow will bring. We don't know what the next few hours will bring. And the kind of I hesitate to say fun, but you know me, I'm going to have to say the fun thing about it is we never did. We never did know. We had the illusion of control and the illusion of knowing what the future was, having a plan and believing that we could kind of do this plan, and that's fallen away. And this leaves us feeling unbelievably vulnerable. And so the two of us are sitting here now today, one in France and one on the Southern Alps of Austria, feeling exceedingly vulnerable and facing an extremely vulnerable world full of not knowing. And I think that's the spirit of right now, and that's what is so deeply unsettling for people. This is what I hear from my clients, from my friends, from my family, and I know it in myself. What's happening, and how should we respond?
Yeah, about this feeling of not knowing. One aspect that is very interesting is actually what it can be seen as a kind of the conditions we find ourselves in. We don't know, as you said. And from that point, it's very interesting to see what arises from that, this ground of uncertainty, this ground of not knowing what's happening. And I can see for myself, since I've started to, this virus has really have become worse and more obvious all across the world, to see how a lot of kind of unpleasantness arose within myself. Mm-hmm. Unpleasantness of being with this not knowing, that suddenly that my habit, my everyday life, my comfort zone, suddenly is just washed away.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we see, I found this because it's the same for me. I'm sitting right now at the office, and I go to the office because it feels good. And to perhaps reinstate some feeling of normalcy. But it's, again, it's this comfort zone. It's this fear of being outside of the comfort zone. And a routine is so, it's so cozy. I know what's going to happen. And again, it gives us this illusion that we know what's going to happen. But the coronavirus has, really shown us that was never true. We never knew. Our routines were always very unstable. And oh wow, that's emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the first thing I see in there is that for me has been important to really recognize is this contrast, the contrast between our everyday lives, our habits, our comfort zone, and suddenly everything washed away, as I said. And suddenly we find ourselves in total different conditions.
Yeah.
And there is a huge contrast between our habits of life or everyday life and suddenly new situation.
Yeah.
And from that contrast, unpleasantness arise again. And I think it's like, I've seen for myself that it has required a little bit of time, to adjust to that. Because suddenly you find yourself in different condition, and it's like the body needs time to adjust to that, but also the mind needs that to adjust. It's like, it's a bit the same, when you've worked a lot, and suddenly you're on holiday, you go on holiday. And I don't know, you go to the beach and you sit by the beach and you still, the first day, you're still restless, you still think of work and everything. It's like it takes time, for things to settle and to adapt.
Definitely.
And for me, I think it's very important to look at the situation with a lot of patience here.
Yeah.
And really offer the space for things to settle.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you mentioned the mind, and that's I think something that I'd like to dig into a little bit. You said it takes, it takes the mind tends to, I think, in the routine, the mind can quiet itself, because it has the illusion again that everything is okay, everything is planned, everything, I know what's coming, so I have some control. And suddenly all this falls away and the mind runs away with us. We're forced to be somehow, because routine sort of puts us in this autopilot mode, which is, one of my absolute favorite topics. And suddenly we can no longer hide there. We can't hide there. And so we're like naked and open in this vast not knowingness. And the mind just goes into terrible places with us. And I think this is where most of us are suffering, is what the mind is doing with us. And then of course the emotions that arise from the activity of the mind, and dealing with that. We spoke yesterday about this, the humanness. We're all in the same situation, and this unbelievable humanness about the emotions that we're feeling right now, based probably on the things that our mind are telling us.
Mm-hmm. In what you're saying, you mentioned the word control, and it is actually one of a very interesting aspect to maybe look at in the situation we find ourselves in, is that actually what it shows up is our tendency to always try to be in control in our lives with everybody and with everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm there. Oh yeah.
Me too. But it's interesting, they're a very different level, because on one hand, we need to control certain things. We need to plan. We need to set up things in order to function in life. So it's useful. I don't mean that we have to accept that we have no control on everything. But the thing is that I don't know how to articulate that in English. We tend to, we know it, for example, we know things are changing. We just look outside, it's sunny, and then it's cloudy, and then it's rainy, it's daylight, and it's night. We all know this. But when it comes to our inner experience, it's like we still behave as if things will last, as if we can control everything.
And I think this is where the pain is arising. And then I think what I find in myself is that I see, I experience the uncertainty arising. I experience perhaps then the not wanting, the resistance to that uncertainty, so it's like layer upon layer of dissatisfaction, if I can just use that word to reach back on that Buddhist idea. But it's this feeling uncertainty and then not wanting to go there, not wanting to feel that uncertainty. And I think I know it in myself, and I see it in again, my friends, my family, people I work with, is to do anything to not have to go there, to not have to feel that uncertainty. And there we like those, those routines. Or then I will go outside and take a walk, or I'll watch, the 150th YouTube video about the life of ants or something, in order to not have to feel that.
Yeah.
To not feel that. But then at the same time, if we don't feel it, these feelings, in my experience, they do not go away. They're not, you can make them, you can hide them for a while, but they do not go away. Feelings really want to be felt. So it's like, here we are, feeling these things we don't want to be feeling, and trying to repress these things or numb ourselves to these feelings that we don't want to be feeling, but somehow also knowing in the back of our minds that, we're so familiar. These feelings are so familiar. We know them. And, the medicine, as it were, being right there, right there, just to feel it, just to accept that vulnerability, to feel that really, really, if I can say it, this way, that really shitty feeling of not knowing.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is that it's why is it so difficult for us to open to uncertainty?
Yeah.
Probably because it's just simply it's very unpleasant.
It's unpleasant. It is.
It's just very unpleasant, and there is a kind of a painful component in there.
Yeah.
And we're not used to open to that. It's scary, actually. It makes fear arising,
yeah.
which I don't see. I don't see the fear here as an enemy to eradicate. I see it more kind of a very healthy response. And if we look at the human history, fear helps us to support the evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
It's because we're afraid of certain things that we could survive.
Yeah.
So it's not unhealthy. But the thing is exactly what you say, is that when this is arising, when this pain is arising, how do we respond to it?
Yeah.
And an automatic response, I can really see for myself, I'm a specialist of that. When I'm facing something, a situation, a person, or that is unpleasant, my tendency is to just run away.
Yes.
To run away, or to shut down.
Yeah.
And what I come to see when I do that is that actually I am fighting the conditions and the reality I'm finding in. I am trying to find an escape. And in doing so, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm just bringing more tension to a situation that is already painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I can really see myself doing this a lot.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm fighting really shortly with my email. I'm sorry. My email program just appeared and I don't want it. And I'm at a loss. Speaking of vulnerability, here I am, very vulnerable. I'm going to have to do it. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit mail, and then I think I'll have it under control. I did. I got it. So I'm sorry. I'm back. Can you repeat what you said?
Oh, wow. No, I was just saying that facing uncertainty is really something that is unpleasant. And what is interesting in that is when we're facing something unpleasant, what is usually our automatic response?
Yeah.
It's unpleasant, it's painful, it's scary. What are our tendency? Mine is I'm a specialist of trying to run away, or I shut down. These are my usually two response.
Yeah. I'm good at shut down. Yeah.
Pardon?
I'm good at shut down. I've practiced a lot. So I know that one. And I think somehow we're as human beings, we're hardwired to avoid painful situations. And it's not, I mean, any being avoids, all beings avoid uncomfortable situations if possible. And I think the difference here is there's two different kinds of uncomfortable situations or fear situations. And the one would be, real fear. I think real fear is helpful. The real fear of what a zebra feels when, a lion is chasing it. That's real. That's now. And then there's this psychological fear that we do to ourselves, when we can't sleep at night, or when now, most of the fear we're feeling now, or this uncomfortableness, seems to be due really to psychological fear. Because if we're afraid of catching the virus, then we set the measures, quarantine ourselves, wash our hands, doing all the things that we've been instructed to do, and the fear should reduce. But it doesn't, because it's not just about, it's the psychological, the things that we project into this terrible future. That's what's so painful.
Yeah. And what you point out is very interesting here is how the fear is working within ourselves, and to really see that fear actually is most of the time relating to the fact that we are anticipating, that we are not really in the present, that we are anticipating to something that usually hasn't taken form yet.
And
we are afraid of something that may happen in the future.
Yes.
And here we really see how actually it disconnects us from the present. It totally disconnects us, and usually it tends fear and all our harmony, with worries and restlessness and anxiety. It just produces more and more and more thoughts, and usually we get lost in their content.
So what you're saying is, oh, sorry.
So no, please go ahead.
I was going to say, so what you're saying is we live then kind of in this projected future.
The thing is that, we're afraid. A lot of thoughts are arising about, I'm afraid that I could be sick, for example, with this virus. I'm afraid that, I don't know, my mother, who is a little bit sick, may die, but we're just building an assumption here. And I think that the question is, I'm not, we have no control. The condition we find ourselves in makes that fear arises, and it's okay, as you were saying yesterday. It's perfectly okay. We're not here to eradicate fear, but to really see in that moment, to recognize that thinking are arising, and to get curious about the content of what the thoughts are telling us.
Oh, my favorite word.
I know. And really to see that what the thoughts are saying, is it useful? Is it supportive? To me or for other, right here, right now? If yes, okay, put thing into action. If not, maybe you might decide to not believe it or to let it go.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you, Sophie. That is so helpful. Are the thoughts supportive? Are the things that I'm thinking supportive for me, for my relatives, for humankind, for anything? Or is it just destructive? And I think many of us find it's actually destructive. There are supportive, there are exactly to set measures, to do, there are thoughts that we have that are kind of frightening, that do project an uncomfortable future that push us into action. And that's good. It pushes us into buying hand disinfectant, now to use this situation, or it pushes us into positive growth and to helping others and this kind of stuff. And then there's that non-helpful, ruminating, kind of overthinking, kind of negative mind thing. And you're right, look at it. Is it true? Do I really want to do this? And that's it. Of course, it's so easy to say, well, let's see it, look at it. Do you really want to think that? And if you don't, well, just stop thinking it. Of course, that's a wonderfully naive little statement there. Just don't think that anymore. And we both know, it doesn't happen quite that That simply, it's the, I think it was, I don't remember who it was who said it's the simplest thing in the world and the hardest to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you pretty much put this into a nutshell with that statement. It's what's helpful and what's not, what's supportive and what's not.
Yeah, it's really to really have the discernment that
Yeah.
will help us and free us from the grip and the pain and of an emotion like fear, really.
Yeah,
If
that's helpful.
it's unhealthy, if it's unskillful.
Yeah, that's very nice, to free us from the grip of that.
Yeah.
To be a victim of that, to allow fear without being held by fear, without fear becoming the controlling agent.
But you were talking about the paradox about that, because the idea is not to get rid of thoughts and to get rid of fear, neither. Because as we mentioned earlier, we have no control on the outside conditions in the world, but also within ourselves. I don't choose to be afraid. I don't choose to face the unknown. It comes depending upon certain conditions.
Yeah.
So where is the freedom I have here? What are the resources I have? Is just the way I will look at things. My ability to see things as they are, and to really learn to see how I tend to react. What are my habits when I face fear?
Yeah.
What are the tendency I have?
Yeah.
And also really to, what I really want to name here is that fear is not something that needs to get oh, how do you say, sorry, I have an English problem.
Gotten rid of.
We don't, it's no need to get rid of thoughts. Thoughts are useful. We usually think that, we have to get rid of thoughts when we're meditating. Of course not. We can function with thoughts in life. It's just to be more aware of what they do to us.
Yes.
Same emotions.
Yes.
It's really,
That's really helpful. And what I'd like to do now is we've been talking for a little over 25 minutes now. Perhaps we can use the last moments of today's session to discuss a couple of concrete, specific things that we can do in our everyday existence that help, that are supportive, to use your word, just things that help us to awaken to to awaken to these thoughts, and perhaps to be able to more easy coexist with them, and to live with the fear or the unhappiness or the anger or whatever is coming up. What would you suggest? What are some of your...
Well, first, if we take into account the conditions we are all in right now, is that most of us now will find ourselves confined at home, which means that we have more time.
Yes.
And we have this time could be used, to really learn to stop, just to stop, and to allow the fruits of mindfulness to bear within ourselves, like just taking a moment to, you're afraid, you feel you are, you're full of anxiety. What's going to happen? I'm going to be sicker. And facing also having kind of pressure of frustration because you can't go out, you can't do whatever you want. You're not free as before. So can you stop and just take a breath? Just come back, to this moment and just take a breath and feel it deeply. Mm-hmm. Just to stop, just to stop this craziness in your head. Just bring back your attention to the body. I think this is really the first thing you can do, is to bring back your attention, to bring back your mind here, and realize that maybe all the fear you have in your head about how things may turn or may be, right here, right now, in this body, sitting on this chair. How do I feel? Am I safe? Is it good? really
That's
to take
very
this
helpful.
space.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So you're saying return from, that we have our attention or focus either in the mind or in the body, including the sense perceptions, and to take our attention away from the thoughts, wake up to it. Oh, right. Return to the body, use the breath. The breath is so helpful. It helps, with the relaxation response, to enter the breath and to kind of interrupt that mind stream, that negative mind stream.
Yeah. And for those who are not maybe not at ease with breathing, it's just to feel your body sitting.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Yeah.
The points of contact with your feet on the ground, or your butt on the chair, or on the cushion if you're meditating, or your hands lying on your knees. Just pay attention to the contact. It's a very simple thing to do, but the magic of it is that it really brings you back here and now, and in doing so you stop feeding this craziness again
Yeah.
you have in your head.
Yeah.
This is very simple, very useful, and you can do that anytime.
Yes. Oh, that's so helpful. Enter
Anytime.
the body. So the tool that we'd like to leave everybody with today is entering the body, to find something in the body that you can be aware of, grounding in your feet, in your hands, in your bottom on the chair, in your breath, in perhaps the wind on your face, and interrupt the connection, the soul connection to the mind. So, and to again, to very shortly reiterate what you said, I think that was very helpful. Thinking, it's not about stopping thinking. Thinking
We
is
can't.
good. Absolutely, we can't. We can also not stop the pancreas from excreting insulin. So thoughts will come because that is the nature of the mind. But if we notice that those thoughts are destructive, non-helpful, non-supportive, then the easiest and most effective way to deal with, if I can put your words together again, is to leave the mind and enter the body, if only for a moment. And I think the learning that has helped me the most, it's not about staying in the body, for extended periods of time. The more often you can do that, the more helpful it is. For that one moment, just to return to that body for one moment, again and again and again.
And see the effect.
And see the effect. Yes. Sophie, it's been, I don't know, about 30 minutes.
It went so fast.
It went so fast. It was our first time. That's kind of the beginning of our learning curve. We're going to be doing this now sort of regularly. We'll see what happens. This video, we were now alone, so there was nobody with us in this. We're in a Zoom room. There was nobody with us, so we haven't enjoyed any input from anybody else. But wherever you find this video, if you have input for us, please just get in touch with us. Both of us are findable in the World Wide Web, in internet. Find us, contact us over Facebook or whatever, and let us know what you're thinking. And we look forward to all of you the next time. Sophie, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm stopping the recording now.